Hello everyone, my name is Grace Elliotson, Editor-in-Chief of The Ithacan, and today I am joined by David Brooks, a New York Times columnist and political commentator who you might have seen on Meet the Press, NPR, or PBS NewsHour. David will actually be speaking later tonight as a part of the Roy H. Park School's Distinguished Visitor Series event, so he was gracious enough to pop into the Ithacan's office to answer a couple of my questions about pressing political issues that are in our news cycle lately. So thanks so much for joining us, David. I appreciate it.
Be back in a college newspaper newsroom. It's been many years.
So can you start off by telling us a little bit about what you're going to be talking to Ithacan college students about tonight?
A little about what the next 20 years of your lives are going to be like, and how hard and miserable they'll be. No, just kidding. But actually some of the challenges, and trying to find a meaningful career and a meaningful life in an age that sometimes makes that hard. Because the job market can be hard. It twists you into a pretzel of a person in some ways. And then the way online media is, it both distracts you and has a tendency to make us all shallower than we need it to be. So a little of my talk will be how to not be as shallow as it wants you to be.
Gotcha. And so as a political commentator, you cover a myriad of political topics, one of them divisiveness. In our current political age, we are in a unique era of political divisiveness. And so I wanted to hear from you if you have any advice or recommendations to college students about how to be the most productively civically engaged in this political era.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest thing to say is get to know people you disagree with. So if you hate Trump, meet some Trump people. Personalization is the remedy for toxic, because people are always much more complicated than you give them credit for. And when you like somebody who disagrees, you sort of begin to see the world from their point of view, and you may not ever agree with them, but at least you have an affection for somebody who thinks that way. And so I find that personalization is the key thing. The second thing is, when I was interviewing a lot of politicians earlier in my career, I just had a dumb quota rule. If I interviewed a Democrat, I interviewed a Republican. It was just 1-to-1. And now I sort of do that probably, but even on my Twitter feed, I have friends who are Trump supporters, I'm not, and so I said, who should I follow? And they gave me a list, so I follow all those people, so at least I'm aware of what's going on. And so I think those are the two things. And then second, just to be aware of your own cognitive biases. We're speaking today in the middle of the Kavanaugh hearings, and it's a fight over whether Dr. Ford's account is real or his account is real. It's not really an ideological fight, it's two accounts of an event. And yet every Democrat I know embraces her account, every Republican I know embraces his account. It's like people judge a non-ideological event by purely ideological categories, depending on what team they want to be on. And so that's just a complete corruption of how we're supposed to think about the world. And that's a sign that our partisan categories are just taking over our lives.
And so speaking of partisan categories, would you consider yourself somewhat of a moderate conservative?
Yeah, my heroes are Edmund Burke, who was an Irish politician and philosopher, who basically believed in gradual incremental change. He's really the founder of conservatism. And then Alexander Hamilton, who's a Latino hip-hop star from New York. He believed in social mobility. And so those are my two heroes, and those heroes would put me politically probably on the moderate Republican side of things, but there are no moderate Republicans anymore. So I'm not a Trump sort of person. I'm not an Elizabeth Warren sort of person. Right now I'm politically homeless.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, because the Republican Party right now is kind of undergoing this incredible identity crisis. How would you recommend to other moderate conservatives like yourself to engage with this party and still stick to their core principles and ideals?
Yeah, I found it very hard to do that. The things I believe in open immigration. I think immigrants have made this country much richer and better. And when I was at the Wall Street Journal editorial page for 9 years, very conservative place, that's what we all believed. We all believed in that, and now the party has just flipped. I believed in a much more ethnically diverse party. The party has now become basically a white ethnic party, which I think is just ruinous. And so I have friends, a lot of us, we call ourselves never Trumpers, and we're conservative, but we just don't like the way the party has gone. And there's a big debate in us whether the party will ever come back into something we can accept. And a lot of my friends think, no, it's never coming back. I tend to think that. Some other of my friends who really invested their career, worked in a lot of Republican administrations, they think, no, it'll snap back after Trump is gone. I'm dubious about that. I think the the things he stands for, whether it's closing the borders, closing trade, withdrawing America from the world, I think those are actually in agreement with a lot of Republicans out there. And there are many fewer Republicans who agreed with what we thought they agreed with. And so I tend to think the change is long-lasting. And where we all go, that's really up to the Democrats, really, to see if they go more in Elizabeth Warren direction. I don't believe in heavy state intervention in the economy, so I couldn't support that. So maybe we'll just drift and worry about our sowing, and we'll pay a lot of attention to gardening for the next 40 years.
And so I also wanted to follow up with you about something that's been dominating our news cycle lately, which is the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, which you brought up earlier. You were on PBS NewsHour a couple weeks ago before the news broke about Dr. Ford's allegations that Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her in high school in the 1980s. You had on PBS NewsHour said that you would like to see him confirmed and that you didn't think there were any scandals plaguing his past. Of course, that was before the news broke.
Right.
So I just wanted to follow up with you and ask you, what do you think of Kavanaugh now?
Yeah, I don't know what to think. I believe her. I sort of found him compelling too. I'm a little nervous about ruining somebody's career when there's no confirming evidence. And basically, I've been reduced to a spot of just mystery. I just don't know what to think of the guy. I mean, I have my hunches, but I don't even trust my hunches. My hunches is she was telling the truth. He was probably sloppy drunk as a high school kid, and he probably did something. Do we judge somebody's adult life by what they did in high school? How certain can we be, given that there's no evidence, there's no confirming witnesses? These are all questions I would have loved to have a national conversation about. But you have to rest in a spot of uncertainty to have that conversation. Instead, everyone went to their corners, and it became destroy him or not destroy him. And so we never really had that conversation. For example, this question of should you be judged by what you did in high school, given that he's had a 35-year career, which seems to be upstanding. But what he did in high school is pretty serious, alleged. So I'm not supposed to say I don't know, but I just don't know. If I had to be a senator, I'm glad I'm not a senator because I do not know how I would vote on the confirmation. And I've been taking advantage of the fact that I'm not a senator to just rest in the uncertainty. Sometimes you just have to rest in uncertainty because there's no thing that can really determine what happened. We just don't know.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today, David. I really appreciate it.